our vehicle now moves actually at the speed of light. Now I just want to highlight something with coding to make our lives a little bit easier. So with our player controller skip open in our IDE, my IDE does some really useful things to make my life a lot easier. So one of the big things first is if I start typing a word say transform, it automatically tries to suggest the word that I am trying to type, in this case transform, and I can press enter and it will complete that word for me. Now if I type dot or full stop, you will see that my IDE suggests all of these different words, and a lot of these words, especially if they have purple this little purple icon next to it, these are all actually other methods that I can use just like our translate method. Now you might people say methods or function in Unity and in C Sharp. They are essentially the same thing, but a lot of people just tend to call things method. When you are using these kind of statements here that have parentheses, now you can think all of these different words very similar to how you would think of a dictionary, and so a dictionary helps you understand a word that you are looking for. In this case, in programming, this is called documentation. And so, our documentation or our dictionary tells us all of the different words, all of the different that we can perform with our transform component here. So, I will use translate again. And now, if we push that dictionary analogy even further, so we have the word translate. And if you use parentheses, you will see that now my IDE suggests different parameters, different pieces of information that I can tell it to the use to do something. You can think of this very similar to a thesaurus and synonyms, where many different words have a similar meaning. In this case, we have many different kinds of methods, and these methods all have different ways that you can essentially do the same thing. So in this case, it is asking for a vector 3 translation. Vector 3 translation. Now, in order to get a vector 3, I can actually just type vector 3. You can see actually the suggestion what a vector 3 is, which is super helpful. So, my IDE tells me that a vector 3 is a representation of 3D vectors and points. Well, in fact, that 0, 0, 1 is just 3 dimension, 3 different points that we use a 0, and a 1. In fact, that 0, and that 1 all correlate to the position on our transform component. So we have the 0 on the x, 0 on the y, and the 1 on the z, updating over time. We even have these vectors, these 3D points in our obstacle. 0 on the x, 0 on the y, and 25 on the z. That is a vector 3. That's 3 different points that we are storing. So that information it is very helpful because we can just shorten this bit of code. We wrote 0, 0, and 1. In fact, if we use dot and then forward, dot, then forward. You can see that forward is actually just shortened for writing 001. So that actually can save us a lot of time, and especially it is very helpful to making our code easier to understand, because if I told a person to move something 001, they would be like, I don't know what you are talking about. But if tell them to move forward, they know the direction of forward. So this is how different keywords in programming can help make our lives easier, to make it easier to understand what is in front of us, but then also translate that into something that the computer can understand. So if we remove now our previous line of code, now we will just make sure that we save. Always make sure that you save before you go back into Unity. Control S. And now in your player controller, you can see that our translate method has changed from 001 to this vector3.forward. And when I press play, our vehicle is still flying all the way up the screen. So it looks like our code did exactly what we wanted it to do before, which is great, and it is easier to read. Cool. I maximize the game view. It's look good and amazing. Make sure to watch all the previous video, and if you have any question, ask in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you in next video.